Welcome to part one of my interview with Colin. Definitely not Cromwell. He is going to tell us all kinds of great things about court on YouTube and a bunch of things about himself you've probably never heard before. So stick around for part one. Part of our court series is having my guest today, and I'm so excited. Colin, can you tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, so I have a court channel, and my name is Colin, definitely not Cromwell.
Ooh, can you tell a little bit about that? That seems really interesting.
Yeah, so there's actually a funny story behind it. Before I started a channel, I was on another channel a lot, and his name is Irish Demon. He has a channel. He covers a lot of different topics. But before you change your YouTube name, the default setting is your first and last name. That's what they take if you don't set in a nickname. So my first and last name was my YouTube name. And whenever Irish Demon would read out one of my comments, he mispronounced my last name or misread it, and he kept calling me Colin Cromwell. And this went on for a couple weeks when finally he realized it. And it was a funny moment. And he's like, so he just started calling me Colin, definitely not Cromwell. So to play into the joke, I changed my nickname to Colin, definitely not Cromwell, and it was only supposed to be temporary, but it stuck, and I just haven't changed it back. Now that's what everyone knows me as. It's been this way for probably close to 2 years now, so I can't go back now.
There you go. Yeah, that's so cool. So going back a couple of years, what made you decide to start watching court? What drew you towards it?
That's a good question, and I don't really know. I think it was one of those just mashup videos from like court cam where people are just being held in contempt for talking back to the judge. One of those 30-minute videos where there's 4 or 5 clips on it, and I think that's what got me into it. And then with the YouTube algorithm, I started watching Law Talk with Mike a lot, and I fell in love with the watching court, and I've always been interested in the law. So yeah, watching someone react to court, so I started watching court. It
Very
kind of just fell into my lap.
That's cool. What are your favorite kind of cases?
My favorite kind of cases, I really like when two attorneys when they battle it out. So when they're going back and forth, like a legal joust, and the judge has to calm them down because both of them are passionate for the side they're arguing. And that this happens more in civil cases than it does criminal cases. Criminal cases, I feel like the prosecutor and the defense are both kind of trying to work the case out together, not on the same side, but as they both want to resolve the case. So they work together generally pretty cleanly. But when you come to civil matters, that's when you get one side believes they're right, the other side believes they're right. They're both trying to defend their client to the best of their ability. So you get a lot of yelling back and forth, and those are my favorite cases.
Yeah, that's I haven't seen a whole lot of that. So that sounds really interesting. I've seen some on your channel though, because you always point that out. So that's so cool. So you were watching court and you were watching Law Talk with Mike and some other things. And then what led you to start your own channel?
Kind of an accident. It's another accident, kind of like my name. So when I started watching Law Talk with Mike, which actually led me to start watching Irish Demon, who I mentioned earlier, I started watching court. Started watching court instead of just waiting all day for them to jump on. I would start watching court, and when I found a good case, I figured out how to get that content. Figured out how to clean it up, to edit it, and then I would actually upload it to my YouTube page, unlisted. So I wasn't public. I wasn't trying to start a channel then. I just didn't know another way to send them the clips because generally they can be pretty big. So you can't email them or you can't send them over Discord. So you had to find another way to send it to them. So I was uploading on my channel, unlisted, then I'd send them the links. When they would use the clip, I would delete them. So the ones that I had on my page were just the ones they haven't used. Now, after a couple months of doing this, I had 25, 30 videos that weren't used. Like, these are good. So just one day, randomly, it was actually one day, June 28th last year, I turned all my videos public. Just, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Just turn them all public. And then within 2 weeks, I had enough subscribers to monetize my channel. And at that point, I was like, I guess this is a thing. I can do this. And I started doing it.
That is so cool. Because there's so many people that aspire to be YouTubers and work so hard to be YouTubers, and then you just did it. So
Yeah,
that's awesome. So how long do you have to watch court every day to get one of your videos?
a long time. I spend a long time watching court. Anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, I will spend watching court, and let's say 8 hours. I'll probably watch court for 8 hours and then spend an hour editing all my clips, going through them, putting a video together. So I do go live every night but Saturday nights, and my videos are about an hour long, which generally means they're anywhere between 3 to 5, court hearings. So, one of those videos generally does take about 8 hours of work to put together.
Wow. And how long is the video once you edit it?
45 to 50 minutes. So I try to keep it right between an hour and 10 minutes. So that way I'm about 15-20% talking. So I try to keep as close to the guidelines of the YouTube Terms of Service, because I can't just cut and paste court videos up, because I am getting them from another YouTube channel, even though they're court channels and they don't own the rights to the court content, even though they have a YouTube channel. But it doesn't work that way with YouTube. They still see it as that channel's, you know, material or their video. So you still have to make it transformative when you put it up. So there are multiple ways to do that, but yeah, I choose to talk over mine. And yeah, so to keep it at about 15 to 20% of me, and then play the rest of the video. So that's how I fall into the realm of a reaction channel.
Very cool. Yeah, I like your channel specifically because the way it's very calm,
Hmm.
and I mean, you have passion about it, but it's not loud and jarring. And, you don't call people names. It's just this nice, calm, educational court thing. So it's really cool. So you've got this community. It started within a few weeks of releasing your videos. How do you keep up with your busy community?
Uh, I've got an amazing team of mods. So I listen to the mods and pay attention to what they're saying, and they kind of take care of everything for me when it comes to the rest of the community. So I don't know what a good analogy would be, but they're like my generals, I guess. And so I'm not listening, or I'm still listening to the troops, but the troops will go to the generals, and the generals will come to me. So, and I still try to interact with everyone as much as possible, but the more sub the more subs I gain, the harder that is to do. And I don't like people not to feel heard. So one of the big things that I have my mods do is make sure that anytime someone comes in, you say hi to them. If someone says something like, "Oh, I had a bad day today," like ask, like just try to be there for them. Like I don't, if I have four mods on a video, I don't need all four people jumping all over them. But just try to be relatable, make people feel welcome. And
So,
yeah.
how do you get the mods? Do they volunteer or how does that work?
Uh, Most of my mods are people that have just been there since the start. So and they come, they're always there. And I've asked them, like, do you want to be a mod? And so we actually just finished writing out a guideline for our mods. So there's actually, I don't want to call it, rules, but it's just, a guideline. So this is what I expect from my mods. And this is what I don't mind people doing. This is what I care about. So now, it took a while, but we got trying to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah,
When one mod says, "Oh, that comment was bad," and the other mod says, "No, it wasn't," it's like, let's just get on the same page.
I like that. Now, your girlfriend's in there as a moderator, right?
I mean, she's essentially a partner of the channel. She does She does just about everything behind the scenes. I will do the core content. Now she taught me how to make the thumbnails, and you can tell if you go back in my channel, you'll see thumbnails that are a lot more creative, because she's a very artsy person, so she's was really good at doing that really quickly, and my thumbnails just weren't. But she kind of taught me, and I'm getting better as I go. But mine are pretty plain. But she did the thumbnails. She made the intro video, my outro video. I mean, she kind of takes care of all the, I don't know, the admin stuff behind the scenes. So all I have to do is focus on getting the content, editing the videos, and making sure I'm ready to go.
Very cool. All right. And speaking of your girlfriend, can you talk a little bit about your personal life? I know you don't do that a whole lot, but if your subscribers are listening and they just want to know a little bit behind the scenes, what can you share?
Sure. I have two daughters, two beautiful daughters that uh, unfortunately my ex-wife and I didn't work out, so we're divorced. So I don't see them every day, but I do talk to them almost every day. And yeah, and then I have a girlfriend. She's Canadian. She lives in Canada. So I'm actually one of those nerds that I actually have a real girlfriend that lives in Canada. I don't just say that. And yeah, besides that, I live in Ohio. I'm a programmer by trade. That's what started me in the tech field. I worked at a restaurant for about 20 years, so I'm a trained chef. Don't have a culinary degree, so maybe trained chef isn't the right thing, but I've worked every position in a restaurant except for head chef. So I've been sous chef, manager, line cook, prep cook, dishwasher. I've been everything in a restaurant, server, bartender. But yeah, so I love to cook. I love technology. Yeah,
So
I think
you,
that's my
okay,
life in a nutshell.
that's really cool. About last month, I think you had some of your audience, there was a battle about some kind of food and if one thing was acceptable or not. What was that?
Grilled cheese battle. It was, and it spiraled quickly. And this is funny. And it started as a joke. There was a court video where Judge Oakley out of Michigan was trying to talk some sense into a sovereign citizen, and the sovereign citizen just wasn't listening. So Judge Oakley started a sentence or an analogy by saying, "Have you ever deconstructed a grilled cheese?" And the sovereign citizen interrupted him and talked over him, and we never heard the rest of that analogy. And I was like, I want to hear, I want to know what the rest of that analogy is because, it was probably going to be something that made sense, but I want to know what it is. So I said to the community, like, does anyone know the rest of this? Did he make this up on the fly? Is this something that anyone knows? So we're all guessing what it is. No one know it. And then all of a sudden, it just came up where, well, at least, I think I might have said it. It's like, as long as he doesn't put mayo on his grilled cheese and he uses butter, I don't care how he deconstructs it. And that started a war where they're like, no, mayo's the best on a grilled cheese. And I'm like, butter's the best. Mayo's okay if you don't have butter, but it's not the best. And so it split, divided the community, and we actually fought about it. We still fight about it. And but it led me to one of my member streams. I made my favorite grilled cheese with butter, of course. But yeah, it spiraled out of control very quickly. It's starting to calm down a little bit, but it comes up. If you bring up grilled cheese, if you're in the chat, it'll come up mayo, butter, butter.
That's so funny. Okay. So, along with so Judge Oakley, I don't know a whole lot about Judge Oakley. It makes me want to reach out to him though, or him, her,
Him.
yeah, and ask him about this analogy because because after Judge Boyd, I interviewed Judge Boyd, and she's got some really interesting analogies. So yeah, but I don't know that one. Who is your favorite judge? Do you have a favorite?
As long as they're not watching. I I I've become friends with Judge Slavin. So Judge Slavin came on my channel for an interview, and actually, technically, I went to his courthouse for an interview. I zoomed in, and he was on the bench wearing his robe where I interviewed him. He had some time in the middle of the day, and he's been back on my channel a few times since. Came up on live, and react to court together, and it's fun. So because I've become actual friends with him outside of you know YouTube, and his job being a judge. I will say Judge Slavin, but Judge King was awesome to interview. Judge King was a lot of fun to interview. Completely different. Nah, I'm not gonna say completely different from Judge Slavin, but it's interesting the different personalities judges have. Now, if before I met Judge Slavin and Judge King, I probably would have said either Judge Middleton or Judge Simpson, just because they have a lot of personality. Judge Middleton would, I don't know, I just want to go to a barbecue with Judge Middleton. I could hang out all day with him and just listen to, stories, about him talking about, oh, see that neighbor right there? The person that used to live there is this person, and then their daughter is this person who actually moved to this house. And he knows every single person that lives in St. Joe County. and their parents and their grandparents. And then Judge Simpson, just his personality is vast. He'll go from being angry because you lied to him or you're talking back to him, and or I mean, even if you violate a court order, he doesn't immediately get angry with you. It's when you lie and you don't accept responsibilities when he gets angry. But then on the flip side, if you do everything he wants, he'll laugh with you and joke with you, and he goes back and forth. Like he'll be happy, laughing one case, the next case he'll be upset, then he'll be laughing again. And I don't know how he does it, but he would be a lot of fun to hang out with as well. So yeah, that was a long way of answering your question. So I just named four judges.
That's okay. Yeah, well, and you can't really you can't really say one when you're talking to all of them. So, as you're listening to all of these court cases, are there any of them that have really stuck out in your mind that you are your most memorable?
Man, the most memorable case. So if someone said like, "What is your favorite case you've ever watched?" It would be the case in front of Judge Middleton. Kind of one of the cases that got the whole Lawtube community blown up. Um, there was a defendant who was charged with, I think it was some kind of DV, domestic violence, but he had a protection order against him by his girlfriend. And he zoomed in to court from her house while she was on court as well. And they figured it out real quick. And they actually called and got him arrested while he was there. And that is a case that went viral. And everyone knew who Judge Middleton was from that case. And I think that's the case that got everyone like, oh, court is online? Like we can go watch court? Because that was about 3 years ago now. And that's about when all the court channels started. The big ones that started right there that are, the really big ones now, that's about when they started.
Interesting. Yeah, there was a girl I watched get arrested. I don't she was yeah, it was a whole long story, but,
Is that the one in Judge Webster? There's not very many people that get
yes,
arrested
and she was she
on
was like the drug girl, and she was hanging out at somebody's house, and they're like, "Oh, well, where is that? Where is that?" And the next thing you know, the sheriff's there, and you're thinking, "Okay, you're telling." I don't know. It's clear that you're about to get arrested, but whatever.
yeah, she
So
she told Judge Webster she was in Alaska when she was in
yes,
Colorado. It's like, what are
yes,
you doing? You're not in Kansas, so it doesn't matter where you say you are. You're supposed to be there in person. You're not.
right.
So I mean, just be honest. And yeah, they're gonna talk. The police station's like, hey, this is where she's at. Can you go arrest her? We need her. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And there she was. Yeah, and the lies, oh, it's so interesting because watching, I guess when you're doing it, maybe it makes sense to you, but watching, I was just watching somebody yesterday, they changed their story 3 times. The judge is like, "Look, the whole alcohol thing and, the hair products." I don't know. Anyway, so speaking of memorable, are there any cases that affect you emotionally? Like, do you ever at the end of watching 8 hours of court kinda does it ever affect you that way?
Yes, and so just to kind of preempt that question, I don't watch a lot of the tough cases because, especially being a dad, I don't like anything against children. So generally, whenever I hear any, the victims are under 18, I'm like, nope, not going to do it. Generally, don't watch them unless it's maybe a high profile case or I've been following the defendant for a while and I didn't really understand too much what was going on. I'll finish following the case. The ones that impact me the most are generally the ones that have to do with, say, the elderly. Like, for example, I just played one. See, today's Saturday. Was it yesterday? It was either yesterday or Thursday. There was an elderly guy in jail for traffic tickets. He had a dozen traffic tickets, and he owed the court, it was like $2,000. So, and he didn't pay anything for years. And he gets arrested, and he was just the sweetest old guy. And like, just he was extremely polite, and he's like, no, these aren't my tickets. I got my leg amputated. I don't drive my truck, my brother does, so I got to figure this out, but it is my responsibility. I'll take care of this. Can you please just let me out of jail? I know there's a lot of money, and I will figure out how to pay this, I promise. And the judge was just like, no, I'm going to let you out, but you owe a lot of money. And he's just like, God bless you, God bless you. And he was just so humble and so sweet. that that my entire chat's like, can we figure out a way to donate money to this guy? It's like he had us all just like, I'm not crying, you are. No, we all felt really bad for him because, like I said, he was just the sweetest guy, and he was in jail for traffic tickets. He was probably like 70, 75. Just
Oh,
he shouldn't an amputated leg. Like, he shouldn't be in jail. Like I understand he has a warrant out. He goes to court a lot of money, but it's an unfortunate situation, and I really hope that he gets whatever help he needs to get his fines taken care of.
yeah. Yeah, there's a few of them that are like that. Yeah, they kinda touch you. So, you mentioned earlier about a sovereign citizen.
Mhm.
I know this is a trick question. Can you explain like I'm 5, like, explain, like, like, in a basic way, not in a whatever, what a sovereign citizen is?
Now I need to actually do a little research myself and figure out and practice a way to respond to this. I get asked this a lot, and I don't know. I don't have the best answer, so I try to summarize the best I can.
Okay.
Now, a sovereign citizen is somebody who interprets the Constitution or your state's laws, or they actually Supreme Court of the United States. They'll take laws from the Supreme Court of the United States and from 100 years ago and take them out of context, read maybe the first line of it, and say this is law. The Supreme Court said it, so this must be true, even though they don't even understand the law. And states have amended their constitutions to say that law doesn't really apply. This is what applies. For example, now I feel like that was a complex answer. So, driver's license is a big issue with sovereign citizens because in the U.S. Constitution it says something along the lines. I'm not quoting it, that you don't need a driver's license to drive to travel. Travel is important because it doesn't say drive. It says you don't need a license to travel unless you're traveling for commercial purposes or for commerce. So they think that, oh, I'm allowed to drive my car wherever I want to because I'm traveling. I'm not driving, I'm traveling, and I'm not working. I'm not making any money, so I'm allowed to do this. Even though their state constitution says you need a license to drive on public roads in the state of Michigan. So no, that doesn't work. But they see it as, oh, you follow the Constitution. You swore an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution, and it says this. Like, yeah, but it doesn't say that. You're taking a law that's 100 years old that has been amended, and there are now statutes that say differently. So the statutes will trump that. So you're not right, but they think they are. They'll go to court and they'll argue that they don't need a license, and then it generally up in them going to jail because they won't plead to it. They're like, oh, I'll be a martyr for this cause. This is right. You're wrong. I'm going to sue everybody. They file a lot of lawsuits as well.
Yeah, lots of paperwork in the court system and
Lots of paperwork,
government. Okay.
handwritten motions.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's I wanna do some research on that because it seems really interesting, but alright. So your channel took off pretty fast.
I did.
And so you're doing that full time right now,
Right now, I
right?
am, yes. Right.
So if there's a YouTuber just starting out, do you have any advice for someone, um, to help them along?
Uh, if in the court genre, absolutely, I could definitely give you advice. Now, if you're, I don't know, a gamer. I mean, I couldn't. I don't know how. I don't know that world. I know I'm a huge gamer, but I don't know the content creator gamer world. But in the court world, um, what I tell a couple of my friends that just started a channel, pick courts that not a lot of other people watch because that's what'll get people in. And that's where I started. I was doing courts that not a lot of people watch, and now I just kind of got stuck on the same courts all the time. But so you want courts that not a lot of people use, not a lot of court channels. Therefore, you're going to get views because a lot of us cover the same cases. So it kind of creates, oh, I've already seen that, so I'm not going to go to your channel. And when you're starting, you don't want that. Once you start building, it becomes a little easier because you're still going to get views on your video. But if you're just starting and you put out a Judge Simpson clip that 5 other channels already did, chances are you're not going to get a lot of views. So courts that not a lot of people cover, find courts that have a judge with personality and has good audio. Good audio is important because not a lot of courts have good audio. Uh, yeah, and then be yourself. I think it helps to be present in your videos. To talk. I'm not always on video on my videos, but I talk in all of them, and I think that's important. That's how you grow a community. Is people get to know you. So to hear you, to see you, to see me. I just said I'm not always on video, but yeah,
But to get to know you personally, and I think every court channel, someone like you, right? Not from the courts themselves, they obviously have their own personality, but every person who does court is got such a different personality. And
I
so
agree.
I think being you is definitely, yeah, probably number one, isn't it? So people get to know you. And I know on your channel, a few people say things about you talking, but like you said before, you have to, right? Or else you're just copying somebody else's video. So
Yeah. Now there are multiple ways to make videos transformative. I choose the route of talking. To me, it's the easiest. Now I could, put a bunch of text on the video and cut up the video with funny animations, and that works too. That's not really me. That's not my thing, and it works for other people, and that's great. But it's just not my thing. So I stick to what I like to do, and I do catch a little bit of slack from people that don't like that. But you know what? I don't like saying this, but it's my channel, and it's how I
yeah,
like to. It's how I enjoy doing it. And at the end of the day, if I'm not enjoying it, and I'm just copying and pasting and throwing some text overlay over something, and I don't like doing that, I'm not going to keep doing it. It's not me.
yeah. And there's other channels. I mean, that sounds mean, but there was somebody else I was listening to before I found you, and they changed the way they did things, and it wasn't my thing. I wouldn't ask them to change back because they're happy, but it was so. And I like that you don't that yours it's relatively clean. Like every once in a while, there's something, but I think it's different when you have your own kids because you do something maybe where they could watch it too if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And I find that very nice. So I appreciate that. So before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to share or you want people to know?
Uh, Come hang out with us. We have a lot of fun. You stopped by today. That was cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, come hang out. You know, stop in and say hi. You might like us. You might not, and that's okay too. But chances are you will.
Yeah. Yeah, your community is pretty cool. I actually joined it today
You
because
did.
I was like, "You know what? If I'm gonna be in there, I'm gonna be in there." So, yeah, it's exciting. All right, well, I thank you so much for taking the time to stop by and share a little bit about yourself and court, and, I'm looking forward to sharing this with all the people that don't know about court as well as your subscribers so they can learn a little bit about you.
Well,
Thank
thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
you.